Mike Vorkunov just said the words every Raptors fan has been waiting all summer to hear. The NBA's investigation into Kawhi Leonard and the Aspiration mess is over, and the league is now reviewing what its own law firm found. So basically, the worst part of this waiting game might finally be behind us. In this video, we're breaking down Vorkunov's report on the investigation wrapping up, why it's so important this gets fully resolved before training camp, and why, as much as this whole saga has been a nightmare, the truth is Toronto probably shouldn't be the one asking for sympathy here, given how we lost Kawhi in the first place back in 2019. Before we get into it, quick shout out. We're closing in on our next subscriber milestone on this channel, and this Kawhi investigation alone has probably been the single most requested topic we've covered all summer. We've been putting out daily uploads, trying to stay on top of every twist in this thing. And I know a lot of you have been refreshing Twitter right along with us, waiting for an update. So if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button, turn on notifications so you don't miss a single thing. Because when this finally gets a resolution, you're gonna wanna be here for it. All right, so let's dive into it. Starting with the actual report, Mike Vorkunov of The Athletic went on the Rich Eisen show and said, in his words, he believes the investigation into Leonard and Aspiration is over now, and that the league is currently sifting through what the law firm they hired has found. That law firm, Wachtell Lipton, is the same one that's been digging into whether the Clippers circumvented the salary cap through that no-show endorsement deal. And according to Vorkunov's reporting, they even expanded the probe at one point to look into a second previously unreported endorsement deal tied to Leonard. So this thing has been sprawling for basically a year at this point, and hearing that the actual investigation phase is done is a real step forward, even if it's not the finish line. And I think that's the part we all need to sit with for a second. This being done doesn't mean the trade is instantly approved. Vorkunov was pretty clear that the league still has to decide if there's a punishment worth levying against the Clippers, and if there is, the CBA process kicks in, which is basically like a trial in front of an arbitrator. And then there's an appeal process on top of that if either side wants to push back. So we're not necessarily out of the woods yet, but at least the fact-finding stage, the part that's dragged on the longest, appears to be finished. Personally, I think that's a genuinely good sign, because until now, we didn't even have a timeline on when the investigation itself would end, let alone the stuff after it. Let's run through exactly what's actually riding on this, because I think it's easy to lose sight of how massive this trade is once you've been staring at the word investigation for a year straight. The full package sends Kawhi Leonard to Toronto, and in return, the Clippers get Brandon Ingram, Gradey Dick, 2 unprotected first-round picks in 2031 and 2033, a first-round pick swap in 2027, and 2 second-round picks. That is a legitimate haul for Los Angeles, and it tells you exactly how much this front office wanted to get this deal done. And on Leonard's side, we're talking about a guy who just posted a career-high 27.9 points a game last season in 72 games for the Clippers, which for a 35-year-old is genuinely remarkable, especially given how much of his tenure in LA got wiped out by injuries. He's not walking into Toronto as some declining, oft-injured version of himself. He's coming off arguably his best statistical season as a pro. And obviously we all remember what he did here the first time, dropping 732 points across that 2019 playoff run, third most in a single postseason in NBA history, behind only Michael Jordan and LeBron James. So the ceiling on this reunion, if it actually happens, is enormous. And look, this needs to get resolved, full stop. We are getting dangerously close to training camp, and this trade being in limbo is not some abstract front office problem anymore. It's actually affecting real people. Kawhi Leonard has already been in Toronto this summer. He showed up for Kyle Lowry's retirement ceremony, and he was seen at Summer League, basically fully carrying himself like a Raptor already. And on the other side of it, Mark Stein reported that Brandon Ingram and Gradey Dick have already been operating like Clippers out in LA, doing their own thing with that organization. So You've got players on both sides of this trade essentially living out the assumption that the deal is real, while the actual paperwork sits frozen because the league can't get its own house in order fast enough. Think about how insane it would be if training camp opens and this still isn't finalized. Kawhi shows up to Raptors camp, but technically he's still a Clipper. Ingram and Dick are working out with a Clippers team that doesn't actually have practical plans for them long term, in a season where the front office there is clearly rebuilding around draft capital instead. That's not just awkward, that's a genuinely bad outcome for every single person involved, and it's on the league to make sure it doesn't come to that. I mean, when we're talking about players' actual careers and routines being held hostage by an investigation that started because of one team's alleged cap circumvention, not anything the players themselves did wrong. And I'll say it plainly, Adam Silver dropped the ball on this one. He said back in early July that he wanted this wrapped up this summer, but he wouldn't put an actual timeline on it, and here we are with the investigation phase just barely finishing up as camp approaches. For a league that prides itself on tight, controlled off seasons, letting one of the biggest trades in recent memory sit in limbo for this long, especially when it hinges on an investigation the league itself is running, that's on Silver's office, not on the teams or the players caught in the middle of it. It's also worth noting how much this has affected teams beyond just Toronto and LA. We've seen reporting that the Clippers have had other pieces of their own off-season business held up because of this, guys sitting in restricted free agency limbo because the front office doesn't want to make additional long-term commitments until they know exactly what their books look like once this Leonard situation is settled. So this isn't just a Raptors problem or a Clippers problem. This has genuinely rippled out and slowed down business for other players who have nothing to do with any of it. That to me is the strongest argument for why the league needed to move faster than it did. Because at a certain point, an investigation into one team's alleged cap circumvention shouldn't be allowed to freeze roster decisions across the rest of the league for the better part of a year. Now here's where I want to push back on some of the narrative that I've been seeing out there, because a lot of people are acting like Toronto is some innocent bystander in all of this, just a victim of bad timing and a slow-moving investigation. And I get it emotionally because we've been waiting for this reunion. But let's be real for a second. The reason we're even in a position where we need Kawhi Leonard back is because we let him walk in the first place back in 2019. Right after winning the title, right after Kawhi delivered the greatest playoff run in franchise history. This front office wasn't able to meet whatever it took to keep him here, and he walked to the Clippers as a free agent that summer. So if you want to talk about who dropped the ball first in this whole Kawhi Leonard story, it wasn't just Adam Silver in July of this year. It was this organization back in 2019 when we had a generational two-way superstar fresh off a championship and couldn't find a way to make him stay. I know that's not a popular thing to say on a Raptors channel, but I think we have to be honest with ourselves here. We've talked about this before on this channel, that 2019 offseason gets remembered as this bittersweet, almost noble thing, like we knew he was leaving and we let him go with class. And sure, there's some truth to that. But at the end of the day, the outcome is the same. We had a top 5 player in the world under our own roof, and he chose somewhere else. So now, years later, we're the ones engineering a trade to get him back, giving up Brandon Ingram, an all-star caliber wing on a 9-figure extension, along with Gradey Dick and a genuinely significant package of draft capital, just to undo a mistake that in some ways we made ourselves. That's not really the league's fault. That's the price of not closing the deal the first time around. So when I see people saying it's so unfair that this investigation dragged on and put our trade in jeopardy, but I also think we need to remember we're not exactly the wronged party here in the bigger picture. We're the team that's had to pay a premium both financially and in trade capital to fix a situation we created ourselves 7 years ago. The investigation being slow is a real problem, but it's a problem layered on top of a self-inflicted one from years back. And I think it's worth sitting with that for a second before we act like Toronto is purely a victim in this whole saga. Now, all that said, I do want this trade to actually happen, and I want it to happen before camp opens because dragging this out any further genuinely helps nobody. Kawhi wants to be here. He's already shown that with his actions this summer. Ingram and Dick deserve some clarity on where they are heading into the season.